And the wave of crime has touched every borough. It's even has some New Yorkers who've been here for years on alert. Jessica Formoso talked to people from the Bronx to Brooklyn about how safe they feel on the streets.
Look what I'm walking around. I'm 60 years old walking around with pepper spray.
Yolanda Williams has spent her whole life in New York City. 7 years ago, she moved from the Bronx to Washington Heights. She feels crime is out of control and says she has no choice but to protect herself.
It's me or them. I'd rather just spray somebody than to stab them or shoot them. You know what I mean? Get them away from me.
Now, I'm not talking about people who've been subbed here for a long time, my supporters. I'm talking about liberals of all races. When they heard this woman say she doesn't want to shoot somebody or stab them, she would rather just spray them to get them away from him. 99.8% of liberals, first thing they thought about was the criminal. And how great that is of this woman not wanting to shoot somebody. Not wanting to shoot somebody that was trying to play the knockout game with her or throw some kind of liquid on her or club her upside the head or steal her purse or shoot her for no reason. They couldn't see this woman. That's the thing about liberals. They don't see this woman, this 60-year-old grandmother, scared to walk down the street. All liberals see is some disenfranchised teen, some homeless person with mental illness that went unaddressed by the system, some grown, able-bodied son man who's a victim of supremacy and institutional this and systematic that, which is causing him to have to club this old woman upside the head, beat her up in broad daylight, shoot her, stab her, whatever I report on every day. They don't see this woman. That's why on this channel, this is why I highlight people like this. Regular people. This is the people's channel. This is the channel for the people. Regular people. Scared to walk down the street. We'll let the liberals talk about criminal justice reform and lighter sentences. But we'll continue to highlight regular people. Make sure you hit the like button.
It's me or them. I'd rather just spray somebody than to stab them or shoot them. You know what I mean? Get them away from me.
She fears riding the subway every day.
Getting slashed in the face, getting beat up for no reason because I bumped into someone.
Williams is not alone. Other residents we spoke with in Washington Heights feel the same way.
Well, I do take the subway, I have to, but I prefer not to go out at night.
Jay Wynn is not a native New Yorker. He moved from Louisiana 6 years ago. He has lived in different neighborhoods.
It varies by neighborhood, honestly. I have an apartment in South Harlem, and during COVID, crime went crazy. It's like Skid Row at 125th and Lenox, and the police don't seem to do anything about it.
Who thinks that this guy was Team Black Lives Matter once the George Floyd video dropped? Not the whole video, of course. He hasn't seen the entire video. He just saw the snippet of Chauvin with his knee on his neck. I gotta make sure because they didn't watch the video. These white liberals and these pro-blacks, they didn't watch the whole video. They just wanted to burn down your city off of the snippet. So who thinks that this guy was Team BLM on Twitter, Facebook, Ally, once the George Floyd snippet dropped.
It varies by neighborhood, honestly. I have an apartment in South Harlem, and during COVID, crime went crazy. It's like Skid Row at 125th and Lenox, and the police don't seem to do anything about it.
He has since moved to the West Village.
And it's clean and nice, and it's like a very different experience.
I also spoke with New Yorkers in Jamaica, Queens.
Shootings in parks, like not too long ago there was a shooting in Baisley Park.
There's very little police presence in the city, even in the blocks.
Now, bro, we don't have to ask. We don't have to ask. And that don't look like Brandon Tatum or ABL under that mask. It's like 6 black conservatives in the whole world. Ain't Candace Owens. Now, I'm exaggerating, being hyperbolic, but like, we know this brother was with the whole, they killing us everywhere, man, get rid of the police. At the height of all that stuff. Well, I feel sorry for this brother because the white guy earlier, if we go to the gun memorial for New York, let's see how many people we see that look like the white guy who we know was defund the police, get rid of the police, let the criminals run rampant, lighter sentences, no bail. They get out the next day regardless. They don't have to pay a dime. Just get out the next day regardless of the crime. Let's see how many of this guy, how many people look like this guy right here are on the gun memorial. And let's see how many people who look like this guy are on the gun memorial. All right, the gun memorial for New York. Okay? If you're new here, all the fatal gunshot victims in New York. Damn, little Shaquille. God, dog. Remember I did a video? Who remembers I did a video maybe like a month ago about a kid named Shaquille killed in Philly? And during that video, I wondered if someone in Shaq's team could get the news to that kid so that Shaq could pay for his funeral, because Shaq, offered to pay for a girl's funeral a few years ago who it was suspected was killed by a white person. Then it was later confirmed that she was killed by 2 black thugs. And then, like, we didn't hear nothing else about the little girl. Like, the second they showed those 2 son men, you didn't hear nothing else about it. And during that video about that young man Shaquille in Philly, I think it was about 13, he was killed riding a dirt bike down the street. Some guys hit him with it. They hit him up. It was targeted too. Like, he was not hit with a stray, he was the target. During that video, I said about 15 to 20 Shaquilles get killed every year in America. And some of you scoffed at that, rolled your eyes, and that damn Op Nation. I promise you, 15 to 20 Shaquilles get killed every year in Blackistan. And just imagine how many Keishawns and Jeremys, more common names. So, these are all the fatal gunshot victims in New York. And we know both of those men we just showed you that they were talking to on the streets in New York. Both heavily BLM, heavily defund the police. Okay, here's a white guy. 2 white guys. Right there. So we had to go back to June 7th and June 6th before we saw some white guy. Let's see how long it takes us to get to the next white guy. Okay, Patrick DeLuca. Okay, Tiffany Cardin. It's snowing over here. Megan Ramos Wisniewski. I don't know. She might identify as a Latina. She's a white woman, but she might identify. I'll give her white. She's white. Her race is white. Her DNA is white. Okay, we just had a flurry right there. I don't know what happened there. That was a flurry. A snow flurry. Well, the sun back out. The sun is back out. Uh-oh. A little scattered flurry there. Sun's back out. Okay. All right. It's 80 degrees right there. Yeah, man. And I wanted to show you guys this because both those guys lobbied for there to be no police. In one group, one of those guys' group, if you took just the people from his group murder, the white guy, the glacier glider, if you took the people in his group that were murdered, that would be a typical developed nation. The crime in a typical developed nation for a city. If you removed the glacier gliders from the gun memorial, it doesn't even lower the murder rate 1%. So I just want you people to understand, like, when both those groups, they have different stakes, different investments in having lawlessness and crime. When there's lawlessness and crime, yeah, white people it's gonna be, a pain in the butt. They're gonna get robbed. They're gonna get their cars broken into, their homes broken into. They're gonna, get knocked out for no reason walking down the street. But when there's lawlessness and no police, black folk get killed and by the hundreds in every city. So it gives you a new perspective on when you see a black person say defund the police and he's standing next to a white person in one of these protests. You go to see one of these protests and it's a white liberal who went to Wesleyan or Tufts or Strathmore and graduated from the School of Wharton at Penn. And you see him, that white liberal next to a brother from the hood, and they both saying, yeah, no police, no police. They both got different investments, different stakes. It's not going to mean the same thing for both of them.
Jay Wynn is not a native New Yorker. He moved from Louisiana 6 years ago. He has lived in different neighborhoods.
It varies by neighborhood, honestly. I have an apartment in South Harlem, and during COVID, crime went crazy. It's like Skid Row at 125th and Lenox, and the police don't seem to do anything about it.
He has since moved to the West Village.
And it's clean and nice, and it's like a very different experience.
I also spoke with New Yorkers in Jamaica, Queens.
Shootings in parks, like not too long ago there was a shooting in Baisley Park.
There's very little police present in the city, even in our blocks.
But it depends who you ask. Those who live in the suburbs and commute to New York City for work don't believe crime is any different than it was a few years ago.
I haven't actually seen that much more crime. A few more homeless, but that's about it.
Feel safe walking around, feel safe taking the subway.
I'm Jessica Formoso, Fox 5 News.
We begin once again with the violence plaguing our streets tonight. Police say a gang war is unfolding in the Bronx with teenagers as the victims. Just in the last 48 hours, a 13-year-old and 16-year-old were both shot and killed on Sunday. And then last night, another 16-year-old was shot but survived.
Now remember, this is a 48-hour period in one section of the city. In one section of that one section of the city. So New York has 5 boroughs. This is one borough. All of this happened in one area of that one borough. 3 teenagers. Not a 19-year-old. 3 teenagers under 16 murdered in that one. I would say to get from one shooting to from the one that, just to get to travel to all 3 shooting scenes would probably take you 15 minutes. If you non-rush hour. Okay? And the white liberals who were championed, because I'd never heard a black person ever say defund the police. We were taught that. When y'all say they taught us, they taught y'all that. I'll give you credit. That's one thing they taught. They brainwashed y'all. They brainwashed us not to get jobs. They brainwashed us to not be anything in life. Now, I don't believe that, but they did brainwash you with this defund the police crap. Could you imagine this happening in these white liberal neighborhoods to white kids? Could you imagine?
Just in the last 48 hours, a 13-year-old and 16-year-old were both shot and killed on Sunday. And then last night, another 16-year-old was shot but survived.
Bronx is back to a level not seen since 1996. Think about that.
It's not just teens. Some recent repeat gun suspects are getting no jail with little or no bail. As under state bail laws signed by Governor Cuomo, dangerousness to the community is not a factor judges can consider when setting bail.
Okay, you heard that? Dangerousness, how dangerous the suspect is to the community used to be something that the judge could use to set bail. Okay? But now they don't have no bail because bail was deemed as racist because black people are more likely to be poor because of white supremacy, not because of their parents, the situation their parents put them into. You know, black people are more likely to be poor because of white supremacy and slavery. Therefore, giving bail disproportionately affected them. So bail was seen as racist. So they got rid of it completely. So now people who are dangerous people to the system, I want you to think about this. People that are considered dangers to their community. Like, yo, this guy, his clique and his crew is in a war. They're shooting up the streets. They're hitting people with stray bullets. They're killing little kids. It's racist to keep him in jail because he's black, and black people are more likely to be poor. And now it does work for everybody. So if a Italian mobster, a wise guy, a soldier for the Gambino family or the Bonanno family gets arrested, he gets out with no bail. If a Latin king gets arrested, he gets out with no bail. I mean, across the board for everybody. But the impetus of it was because it was deemed as racist towards black people.
Not only does it have to stop, it has to go in the other direction a little bit, and that's not happening yet.
The police commissioner says there were over 1,000 shootings in the last 6 months of last year, but he says in recent weeks the pace of shooting incidents has slowed. But the recent Bronx violence examples, part of the ongoing concerns. Jonathan Dienst, News 4.